We're going to return to Proverbs chapter 28, and we'll start at verse 17. I'll read it out of another translation other than King James, and it is as follows. Let a man or woman weighed down with anyone's blood flee to a pit. Give him or her no support. Whoever lives blamelessly will be saved, but he whose ways are crooked will fall in one, and in my translation in parentheses it says, in one of those ways. He who farms his land will have plenty of food, but he who follows futilities will have plenty of poverty. A trustworthy person will receive many blessings, but one rushing to get rich will not go unpunished. To show partiality is not good, though a person may do wrong for a crust of bread. He who is greedy, he or she who is greedy, rushes after riches, not knowing that want will overtake him or her. He who is greedy rushes after riches, not knowing that want will overtake him. He who rebukes another person in the end gets more thanks than the flatterer. Whoever robs mother or father and says that's not a crime is comrade to the destroyer, which is another euphemism for Hasatan. A grasping disposition stirs up strife, but he who trusts in Yah will prosper. He who trusts in himself is a fool. Let me read that again. He who trusts in himself or herself is a fool, but he who lives by wisdom will escape. He who gives to the poor will lack nothing, but he or she who hides his eyes will get curses in plenty. When the wicked rise up, people hide. But when they perish, the righteous flourish. That concludes 28. Let's go by way of quick review. Let a man weighed down with anyone's blood flee to a pit. Give him no support. Give them no support. Weighed down with anyone's blood. Flee to a pit. That's almost like telling somebody to go to hell. in just conversation. I'm not using profanity in church. Flee to a pit. Give them no support. Whoever lives blamelessly will be saved. But he whose ways are crooked will fall in one. You know, this entire book is just full of wisdom, and you can almost take it on a daily basis, because it tells us how we should carry ourselves every day. And it touches on a lot of situations that introduce themselves in our lives. Most of us, when we're at home, and I pray this is the case for everybody, there's peace in your home. And I pray that that is the case. But once you go out your front door, side door, patio door, screen porch, just about anything can happen. You can get good news. You might get some not so good news. But regardless of the type of news that you receive, there's a way that we, as children of the Most High, must carry ourselves. And it would be in all of our best interests to respond with wisdom at the forefront, with wisdom going before our emotions. Learn to color our emotions with wisdom before we naturally react to news, be it good or bad. Wisdom keeps you steady. Yah's wisdom keeps you steady. Bad news is bad news. Most of us don't like bad news. But when bad news prompts you to get emotional, particularly us, we make poor decisions. We go too far to the extreme of what we just heard. We sometimes commit ourselves to things that we shouldn't, or we refuse to participate in things that we should because we're emotional. When we allow our emotions to stay in the driver's seat, we're out of control. And it has not served any of us well when we return to ourselves. Now, some of us put too much stock in how we feel about a situation. And that's not good. I'm telling you, a lot of us are still dealing with things because of decisions that we made because we didn't like something about something. And we overreacted. And, some of us have even kidded ourselves and said, well, that's just righteous indignation. You're out of control. And no, none of us are robots, even though some of us try to live like it. But we're not robots. Yes, you get upset. Like I said earlier, none of us like bad news unless you've become accustomed to living a life of depression. Because there are some people that are in pursuit of bad news. Depression will come on as if it's soothing you. But all the time it's taking you deeper. It's taking us deeper into depression. I mean, sometimes we don't even feel like getting out of the bed. Sometimes. And I submit to you, it's at that very moment where we need Yah's wisdom, not to give in 100% about how you feel about a situation. I've said in times past, coming to church and all of that, that's all wonderful. But if you're only coming because we've been trained to come, and if you're not actually applying what you're hearing, particularly when it's useful, factual teaching, people aren't up here just to show off what they're wearing. Well, most aren't up there to show off what they're wearing or this is information we're to take and we're to start living by it. If this is just another spiritual exercise, we're not getting the fruit after we've labored in the garden. Because we'll hear it and we'll say, well, yeah, that was a good word. Well, are you going to use it? You heard it today. Are you going to use any of it? Or are you going, I'll just wait till next week? All of the scripture is good for reproof and for smoothing some of our rough edges. But I'll tell you, Proverbs, it will keep you it will keep us at least neutral. It'll help us to not always, and I just made a mistake, it will help us to not readily give over to our emotional side. And saints, our emotions have hurt a lot of us. Now, some of us don't want to admit that. And that's okay. I mean, the thing about this is you don't have to take what somebody else says just because they're a teacher or a preacher or whatever. But when you hear truth, it ought to resonate with you, regardless of where it's coming from. It might be somebody that you can't even stand to look at. But as a child of the Most High, when we hear truth, a light bulb or something ought to go off, even if we're not doing it. I would strongly suggest get back in Proverbs, whatever you're studying, that's fine. But get back in Proverbs because it'll help you get through the day. To show partiality is not good, though a person may do wrong for a crust of bread. Showing partiality. Well, we have people that things seem to flow better with than others. There's some people you can be in their company, but you don't want to be in their company too long because there's some friction there. And I don't know if any of you ever have been in this situation. You could be meeting somebody for the first time. And something occurs in you. Let me stop. Something occurs in me. I'll use myself as an example. Most of us that are over 21, everybody has said, you've heard, it's hard to make, you want to make a good first impression. And I gave you the example sometimes. I said, I used to, before it happened to me, see, when it didn't happen to me, I used this as a rule. When I was in the company of a group of people, if a child reacted negatively towards somebody, I'm gonna keep my eye on that person. Because I said, children, and especially the young ones, I'm like, they're innocent. They haven't been ruined yet. And I'm like, now I wonder what is it about that person. And I'd look at them and I'd be like, but I'm on the outside. I'm like, hey, how you doing? I'm like, what's with you? And I used to be like that for a long time. It's like, I don't know if I can trust that person. And I was that way for a long time until I was at a friend's house, and their new granddaughter was there, and that was the first time I was meeting them. And I mean, man, when I came through the door, that little thing looked at me, eyes got big, and just started screaming. Oh, I was crushed. Because prior to, man, it didn't matter. Stripy, purple, yellow, green. I was good with kids. Man, I could hold them. They be crying. And see, when you really want to try to score points, you kind of ease and you get over there and say, well, let me just hold them for a little while. Then you go to walk and see, because I learned you just walk with them and see they just looking around. And I thought I had the touch. One of my fraternity brothers, this long time ago, I was living in Houston, and they had moved to Chicago, and he lived out in Glen Allen. Shout out to Glen Allen. But he had moved to Chicago. His job had sent him out there. And he got married in Lynchburg. I went down there for the wedding and all, and it was nice and all that. His job sent him to Chicago. They had a brand new baby. And I went down there. I was going to visit some other friends, but I said, I was going to Gary, Indiana. But I said, I'll stop by and I'll stay there for a couple of days. And the baby was brand new, but the baby, you know, two of the nights that I stayed there 3 nights. 2 of those nights, and this is the truth. 2 of those nights, I held the baby. I sat down, but I would just walk the floor. His wife got more rest. She didn't want me to leave. You know, but all I knew to do was just hold the baby and just walk. You know. And so it's the same thing on the job when they would bring the new kids up. You know, unless I had a cold or something, because I realized you got a cold or something. Don't nobody want you all around there, kid. You infected. You know, but like I said, I thought I was like, man, you know, and here was my thinking. Well, I'm a good person. That's the kids are just confirming that. You know, that was my thinking. You know, but getting back to when I was outed, I walked in the door. I wasn't there that long. Had just come through. It was greeting everybody. That little thing looked at me, man. Eyes got big and just started screaming. I mean, and she cried so she would not be quieted. I was hurt. I was crushed. I was mortified. I left. I was mortified. I came over there to see the baby. The father and mother was there, grandmother there, great-grandmother there. And see, they all thought, hey, he's a good guy. That little baby said, oh. Oh, I was so crushed. I was hurt. In fact, I shared that with the congregation at that time. That thing, it crushed me. But see, I had all these preconceived notions about people when that would happen to them. And so then I started thinking, well, wait a minute, how many other good people got cried out of a room? You condemn them. Something wrong with them. Something wrong with you, Barry. I mean, now she's grown up, and now, you know, we all right. You know. But she's, I don't know, 12, maybe about 12 or so. You know. So I've had plenty of time to kind of bribe her to win her over, you know. But I remember that hurt. I mean, when I think about it, it still hurts. But my pride was hurt more than anything else because, you know, I just thought I had the Midas touch with the kids. Mm. Mm. He who rebukes another person in the end gets more thanks than the flatterer. You know, talking about showing partiality, you know, a lot of us, we're more drawn to somebody that's always complimenting us. And somebody that's kind of, you don't, you know, you're not enemies, but, you know, you might say to yourself, well, they just don't see, that person don't see how wonderful I am. And it might be they do see how wonderful you are. But they also might see you got about 4, 5, 6, 8 pair of rose-colored glasses that you don't never take off. So while everybody else is being plastic, oh, you just so wonder, you this and you that, you this and this. The other person just like, hey, how you doing? That's all I get? Don't you hear all of these people saying all these wonderful things about me? What I'm saying, folks, is sometimes the person may not ever pay you a compliment. But that doesn't mean they don't like you. Some of those compliments are for a reason. Sometimes, folks, we're being set up. Sometimes you end up with some snakes in your life, and they got there through a compliment. When in reality, the person that never complimented you had good things and good thoughts toward you. They just didn't feed into all the other stuff. And really, I don't know about you, but if somebody is constantly complimenting me all the time, I kind of want to pull them to the side and say, look, man, or if it's a female, what do you want? You know, and you know, you got to be careful with that because sometimes the people don't want anything. But constant flattery will have the reverse effect. See, a lot of people think, you know, let me butter them up. Let me butter them up. Nowadays, I mean, everybody's now doing a double take, and you should. You should. Because it's a whole lot of flattery going on. I don't know how much of it is sincere. But, you know, I really, now I'm not saying be distrustful of people, but I mean, you know, encouraging people is good. And sometimes it's necessary. I mean, we all know David encouraged himself. Learn how to encourage yourself. But even in that, don't take it too far because some of us have become delusional. See, that's it. Balance. See, but when you're overly emotional, you don't like that word balance. But I'm telling you, Proverbs will help us all. Proverbs actually will help us deal better and deal more maturely with one another. If everybody getting into it and they're gleaning and they're applying what they're reading. I'm not saying the rest of the Bible won't do that, but Proverbs is full of suggestions that if we take some of them, we'll fare much better in life. I'm not just going over it to have something to say. We need it. It's full of wisdom. And it helps keep us in check. And see, the beauty of it is, as you're reading it, nobody else is there. And when you are just totally honest with yourself, about yourself, we can really get help. Who are we trying to impress? If there's nobody in the room but you and your Bibles and your reference books, who are you trying to impress? So if you're going to go for it, go for it. And this one, then I'm going to move on to 29. Whoever robs mother or father and says that's not a crime is comrade to the destroyer. Now, I thought in their translation, I said comrade, that's a Russian term. But then I got to remembering there's Sephardic and there's Ashkenazi. Those are two types of people. So when I saw comrade, I said, okay, I know why they use that term. But this is key here. It says, whoever robs mother or father and says that's not a crime. That's talking to all of us that had parents or that got parents. Because a lot of us are under the assumption what's theirs is mine. And it is if they say so, not that you say so. Let me say that again. What's theirs is theirs. We assume it's ours. But it only is if they say so. There was a term, they used to use this term, korban. And that's when I want to use Duke, but I'm not going to do that. Okay. Here's a example of the use of korban, and this is just an example. Just an example. Just an example. Korban is a term that children would use when things are pretty good in their lives. This is just an example. This happens to be true, but the example, please. Say Donnie is coming down the street and his Jordans got a hole in the bottom of them. And that's not a fashion statement. And I ain't gonna use Sheila, I'll stick with Donnie and Duke. And me and John, we standing on the corner. Donnie come by us. Duke coming down the street. And John said, hey, Donnie, look, man, let me take you to get you another pair of them things. Donnie said, well, all right, brother, if you won't do that. And then Duke comes up, dressed to the nines. This is just an example. And John don't know that Donnie's Duke's father, but I do. So after the exchange, Duke's comes up to me and he says, look, man, I know how that looked But I'm going to call Korban. Korban is, I see my parents are in need of help, but I got my own family. And so my first responsibility is to my family. See, in the first and second century, a lot of them used to claim that. You know, and even in America, most people say if you want to judge whether a man is successful or not, you don't look at him with the $1,000 gaiters on. What do? You look at his wife. You look at how he got her looking. Now, I don't know how many guys don't know that, but if you just found that out, take that and run with it. Because a lot of guys would think, man, you know, when you talk about, man, I'm breeding success. I got on $1,000 gaiters. My slacks cost, you know, $300. I got on a silk shed. And then, you know, here come his missus looking like a ragamuffin. Or, even more, the kids coming looking like baby. But he's dressed to the nines. That's a form of korban. You see, this book, it deals with, I like it because it applies today. Today. The teachings are good for today. And guess what? They'll be good 20 years from now. All kind of situations. Now, will Proverbs teach you which computer to buy? No. But it will talk to you about how you spend your money. It'll talk to you about how are you in pursuit of money? Are you running after money? Because we've learned whatever you're running after, sometimes run from you. And that's not only money. Sometimes there could be people, and sometimes you wish the people ran a little faster so you wouldn't catch them. Because some of you caught them, and then you'd be like, oh, God, now what am I going to do with them? Let's go to 29. Oh, and look at how 29 starts out. He who remains stiff-necked after much rebuke will be suddenly and incurably broken. See, a lot of times when we hear rebuke, you know, we thinking of somebody almost coming to blows, but sometimes rebuking is necessary, especially if it's going to put you on the right path. Now, nobody likes a public rebuke, so you pull them to the side. But then again, some offenses we did it in public. That's like, I don't know how many of y'all follow college football, but one of the big name coaches made some accusations, and I think most of you have heard of Deion Sanders. Well, he was saying something about Deion's school paid for this player, which they didn't, and the coach was the coach at Alabama. I ain't gonna call no names, but you know, they win a lot, and they are very. They got a excellent track record. They win a lot of national championships. But the coach that made the public statement wanted to call Deion and apologize privately. But Deion said, "No. You accuse me publicly so you can apologize publicly." And he was right. He was right in that assessment. And so a lot of times when we do something public, then that might be, you might get a public rebuke, depending on the constitution of the person that you wronged. But most of us, we nice, plastic church people. Yeah, hey, Donnie, can I see you a minute? Bro, look, let me tell you, man. I shouldn't have said that, man. More than likely, Barry, you're an idiot, but I forgive you. You know. But then again, I don't know. Depending on how we say, no, bro, that's not going to fly. Y'all remember the time when we used to fall short? We used to get up here in front of the whole congregation. Y'all remember that? And man, I used to put my head down and put in my ears and see if you put your fingers in your ears and you start humming, you can't hear nothing but the hum. And see, we were, and I'm not saying we're not serious now, but we was real serious then. So that helped keep a whole lot of folk in line because folks didn't want to get up in front of the whole congregation. And that's when we had some numbers back then. He who remains stiff-necked after much rebuke will be suddenly and incurably broken. Listen to this. When the righteous flourish, the people rejoice. But when the wicked are in power, the people groan. Church, even into politics. Listen to this. Whoever loves wisdom brings joy to his father. But then, this is weird. But then it says, but a patron of prostitutes wastes his wealth. I'm going to share something with you all. Back in the day, some of those priests were pretty worldly. Some of the priests were pretty worldly. And occasionally, they had to have help. And I know most of us, in church, wait a minute, hold it, they preach, they working in the temple, they doing this. Listen, some of them got in trouble. Some of them got in trouble back in the day. And now I'm not sharing this to give license to getting in trouble. No, we don't want to do that. But what I'm trying to show you is this book touches on things that happened then, things that are happening now, and things are going to be happening in the future. It's needful. It's needful to review this book. But a patron of prostitutes wastes his wealth. Whoever loves wisdom brings joy to his father. Listen to this. A king gives stability to a country by justice, but one who overtaxes it brings it to ruin. I remember, and I know y'all know who he is now, but I asked some time ago, I said, anybody know who Jerome Powell is? The Fed chair. Well, what's the Fed chair got to do with anything? This guy at times is more powerful than the President of the United States. And because of the antics of some that have held that office, some people think the president can fire this guy. No. They can appoint him. But the Fed operates independent. Independent, folks. And we all know that the federal government is not really, the Federal Reserve is not federal. That's an entity, and I'm not trying to get in politics, but I'm trying to work with you here. See, Proverbs touches on all of this stuff. But one who overtaxes it brings it to ruin. We all dealing with inflation. I went to test drive I need a truck. I went to test drive one, and I'm gonna get one soon, but I'm trying to hold out. But man, it's gonna be a couple of years for the pricing get back right about autos. I'm glad we got the van that we got. But I was looking at this truck. I'm gonna get a truck for work. But then I said, well, you know what? You got that automobile, and it's just sitting there. I don't want nothing if all it can do is look good. If it can't make me no money, it's got to go. So I said, well, I'm going to get rid of my car. And I'm going to get another smaller SUV. And I got this thing, and I test drove it. And got in there. The thing was on E. I said, oh, man. So I pulled over in the gas thing. Then I said, well, I ain't getting this. It took premium. I said, oh, man. I mean, I really liked it. And, man, I thought I looked good in it. But I said that because, folks, man, I saw 87 octane for $4.99. $4.99 for 87 in Virginia. So, you know, the premium, I ain't put for 2 gallons in there. And it moved the needle just a little bit. And see, folks, this is affecting all of us. Inflation is affecting all of us. And so everybody's wondering, what is Jerome? Is he going to raise the interest rates? Some are saying by 75.75 basis points. Some saying he need to do it for a whole point. See, because now, you know, a few months ago, you could get a house and you could get a 30-year mortgage and you get a 2.5% mortgage. You can't now. It's what, up to about 5 now. And before you said 5 is astronomical. When I lived in Houston, I was paying 13%. 13%. And thought I had a good deal. So, and I'm going to move on, but see, what the Fed chair is trying to do, he's trying to do what's called a soft landing. They're messing with the interest rate because they're trying to affect the inflation. And he's in a no-win situation. And whoever's in the White House, they're going to get the blame for it. And see, it didn't matter whether it was a Republican or a Democrat. What's happening now was going to be happening. But the way it's going to come down, the party that's not in power, of course, is going to make sure you think it's all the party that's in power's fault. And I'm telling you, government is not always for us. Now, when I say government, every time I say government, remember that's both parties, not just the party that won the White House. Please remember that for future. Government is government. You get all of that out of Proverbs? Yes, I did. A king gives stability to a country by justice, but one who overtaxes it brings it to ruin. So we got to be careful. And see, you know, the thing that is so amazing about this, and I have issue with some of my evangelical associates. What's happening is worldwide, not just the United States. Everybody has financial dilemma, even China. Because everybody thinks China's sitting pretty. China got more problems than we got. But not according to certain news people. See, folks, what's unfair is your way of thinking, your way of believing, your way of voting, everybody's trying to control that. Just remember this. Don't let anybody, myself included, change the narrative about the topic. If you're talking about health, you're talking about health. If you're talking about church matters, you're talking about church matters. If you're talking about politics, you're talking about politics. Don't allow somebody to try to mix them all up, because you'll make a poor decision if you allow that to be done. The narrative has been changed time and time and time again, and it's getting ready. They're getting ready to come with another change. Stay on point with the topic, please. That's in Proverbs. Listen to this. A person who flatters his neighbor spreads a net for his own steps. Isn't that something that keeps talking about people that are very complimentary? Oh, I just love your outfit. That was an example. But you look nice. Folks, and you know, I know we all want to get along and everything, and yes, we do. And we don't want to be, always in a confrontation. Yeah, but come on now, what? Keep your eye on that person that's always, come on, full of compliments. I mean, if you don't want, no, you don't want to embarrass anybody, but you just point to, do I owe you some money or something? I mean, again, just speaking for myself, I get a little uncomfortable. Because I'm like, well, hold on, what's your angle here? Celebrities or athletes and stuff, they get a little uncomfortable with people that are a little too into them. You make people, because if you just, I don't mean no harm. I just think they just so wonderful. Hey, kind of ease up a little bit. You make people uncomfortable with all of that. And the word keeps talking about flatterers. You don't want to, I'm not saying, yeah, a compliment is nice. But 20 compliments a day? I mean, and ladies, I mean, you all ought to know better than most. Because usually if we coming at you with a whole bunch of compliments, we do got something in mind. Come on now. Usually. I mean, not hardly now, but back in the day. You know, and if you're an easy target for a compliment, look out. Because a lot of people have found themselves saying, wait a minute. I didn't sign up for all of this. Too late. You took the bait. Now, I'm not telling you to go upside some guy's head because he tell you look nice. He probably means it. But I mean, come on now. Don't let your head get turned so easily. You know, hey, thank you, and keep it moving. Thank you, keep it moving. And guys, the same thing. Yeah, hey, okay, yeah. I mean, you know, and I always like to, you know, because all of us been there. Now, here you done, maybe back in the day, you done put something in the layaway. You know that outfit hidden. And then you come in here. Oh, sister so-and-so, I just threw this together. You ain't throw nothing together. You looked at it all day. In fact, you laid it out the night before. Oh, my. Oh, I paid a lot of money for these glasses. Oh, my gosh. Thank you, John. I'm going to try to fix this. Now more than ever, I'm going to sit down, Reg. Now more than ever, we do need one another, and it's okay to compliment one another, but it stops right there. We need to develop an atmosphere in here where we can be truthful with one another. Not by how many compliments or flattery we use on one another, because like I said, as we've heard today, sometimes some of that stuff is not sincere. It's just like, you know, when a person gets bad news. If you really are not in the position to help, don't say whatever I can do, because you're not in a position to do that. Just say, hey, you know, I hurt for you. And sometimes nowadays, and that's good, sometimes people now are saying, bro, I don't have the words. Well, you just said a mouthful. See, that's more honest than, man, anything, whatever you need, man, just, no. Especially now. See, we need to say what we mean and mean what we say. And then when a compliment comes, you know it's genuine and you can both enjoy. The one that gave it and the one that received it. And you just keep it moving. God bless you.